Welcome back. The family of a 3-year-old claims their child was sexually assaulted while in ICE custody. That child had been taken to a foster home after crossing the southern border with her mother and being separated. ICE and Border Control agents separated the two. The child's father is a legal citizen, but was barred from reuniting with his child and learned about that assault once he took his claims to court. All
right, joining us now, our chief of the analyst, Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, a really heinous case that we're dealing with here, but there's so many things to unravel. One, why the father wasn't told about the assault. Also, what duty does the government have to protect this child?
Yeah.
I guess we can kind of start there. What duty does the government have when you take a child in, they crossed illegally, but the child's in the protection of the government, right?
Yes, 100%. There is a duty to protect the custodial, whoever has that person in custody, child or adult. The government has a duty to protect. It just depends on where that duty is and what's this assault. So there's so many questions I have.
Yeah.
I'll first start with, as a parent, this is horrific. You don't want anything like this to happen to anyone, let alone your child. But I need to know a lot more of the facts. And right now, you only learn that through the discovery process. You file the complaint. You get more information. You start to figure out, well, what happened, how did it happen, and what steps were missed in the process, what protections were supposed to be there, or what duties were supposed to be there, and what duties were breached. But overall, an employer cannot be responsible for the actions of their employee if they're outside the scope. And that's why I say I need to know more. If there was some type of awareness of these things that were happening and the employer failed to act or failed to respond, then yes, then the employer, the government in this instance, could be held responsible if they failed to act for an employer, or if they failed to protect a person from someone else in the facility, non-employee, that they knew or should have known was doing these types of things. And so there are a number of ways that you can get to some type of duty for the government, but there's still other hurdles you'd have to get over for a claim to be successful, not just the duty aspect, but to be able to bring a federal claim, you have to get over the Federal Tort Act, and the government oftentimes will not waive immunity, so that's a hurdle outside of the normal standard of duty, breach, causation, and damages that we talk about with a standard tort type of claim.
Outside of claims potentially against the federal government here, this was a child who was abused by an older child in the home of a foster family, right, which is where this 3-year-old was placed. Talk about criminal charges, though, potentially for this foster family.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, again, it's going to be duty, but a different standard for duty. I mean, if you're bringing claims against parents, and we've seen that more recently with school shootings and things like that, where claims are being brought against a parent for failure to supervise. And so if the foster parents in this situation were not doing what they were supposed to do, not properly monitoring, not properly taking notice for warning signs of grooming and things like that, then yeah, there could be potential criminal charges brought against the parents as well. But these types of things, sexual abuse in immigration centers, because the child was taken there when they were placed in this ORR situation when they were brought here, and their father, who was a resident of this country, should have been notified. And so that's where the standard of this complaint will live. But these allegations and allegations like this, as I mentioned, are not new. Looked at a study earlier, and it said that there were 1,400 allegations of sexual abuse in these facilities between 2012 and 2018. 2017 alone, 237. And so trying to figure out how to stop these types of things from occurring isn't a new situation. This is an old scenario. We just haven't found a solution for it.
Khalif, obviously, I would like you to touch on the fact, do they have a duty to disclose what happened to somebody's child to the parent, even though there's an investigation ongoing? Because as we mentioned there, he wasn't told until this investigation, or until he got to court about what happened to his daughter. But also for the Office of Refugee Resettlement, the average custody times for children was 37 days when President Trump took office. It's now almost 200 days. Do they have a duty to move it expediently when they have a parent here who's a legal parent?
You're all over it. You're all over it. I mean, and that's part of what they have in their complaint. And so the first thing I'll say is this is just great lawyering by the agencies that are involved with offering representation to this family. The first thing is you file a habeas petition. That's bring the body. I need the body to be brought to me fast. Why? Because I believe there's some constitutional or due process violation. You file this petition. The court typically is going to instantly respond to a habeas petition, specifically if it's rooted in the case law that's accurate. Then after that, they would allege alleged a number of the things that you said. Hey, you have failed to notify a parent that's legally here, which you're obligated to do. You mentioned those dates of being 30 plus days. Well, 5 months is significantly past 30 plus days, and you're saying this even further than that. So what I can say is there were a number of alleged violations. I think once all those things are flushed out, that process of in the unoccupied minor's parent not being notified will be crucial to this case.
All right, so we'll see how this progresses. Khalif, thank you so much.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.